Right, let's have a look at how we represent rhythm in music notation. Rhythm is one of the key aspects of music, just as melody and harmony are. And there are some symbols that we need to learn to use to represent that rhythm. We apply those symbols to the musical stave. So whereas we've learnt the note names on the stave, where those note names are, we can apply these symbols that I'm about to show you to say how long do we play that note for. Or maybe we don't want to play a note at all. Maybe we want to have a rest or a space. So there are symbols for those as well. Let's have a look. If in normal sort of music that you're going to look at, like pop music, etc., if you listen to the radio, you're probably sort of clapping along or counting along. It's fairly intuitive to sort of go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you're doing a waltz, it might be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you're singing Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, it might be 6. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a whole lot of different groupings, if you like, but typically the ones that you'll come across are going to be groups of 2, 4, 3, and 6. Those groupings we often refer to as being bars in music. So if I've got a musical stave where I'm going to put my letter names or my notes, I represent a bar by 2 vertical lines like this. Between those, I need to fit enough notes to make up the 2 or the 4 or the 6 or the 3 beats that we want to put into our music. Let's go and have a look at 4, a grouping of 4 for now. I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, 4 over the top of this grouping. This bar, we're now going to call it a bar of 4 beats. Each one of those beats can be represented in duration terms by a symbol that looks like this. It's a blob with a stick on it. It could also look like a blob with a stick going up. Now, the difference between the two is where it's located on the stave. If you remember from another video, this bottom line here is a letter E, or the note E. If we're putting a 1 beat note on the letter E, which would be a blob, because it's quite low, we'll put the stick up. If I wanted to put a C, which is on this one here, as well as for a 1 beat note, because it's quite high in the stave, I'll put the stem down. It's purely aesthetics. That's all it is. Now, that's telling me at the moment I'm going to be playing 2 notes, an E and a C. Each one is going to last for 1 beat in this bar. If I didn't want to play anything on the 3rd beat, I could have a 1 beat rest. That rest looks like a 7 with a 3 stuck on the bottom of it. Sometimes, it might look like a squiggle. There are all sorts of printers license kind of ways to put that, but I usually use just like a 7 with a 3 on it. That's a 1 beat rest, right? A quarter note rest. Why did I call it a quarter note? Well, have a look at it. There are 4 beats in the bar. Each one of these things, and I'll put another one in there just for argument's sake, represents a quarter of this bar. So we call this blob with a stick a quarter note. Now, if I wanted to go and have a note that lasted longer than 1 beat, it's going to be the equivalent, let's say, of 2 beats. If I add 2 quarters together, I get a half, right? A half is represented by a circle with a stick on it. And we would write that. So in the place of these 2 here, because we want it to go for 2 beats, we're going to put our quarter note, and we're going to put it on the C. And now that C lasts for 1, 2 beats. And then we have a rest, and then we have the 4th beat. If I was to sing exactly that, not to pitch, but I have to sing the rhythm, I'll sing the rhythm. It would go la, rest, la. So 1, 2, rest, 4. 1, 2, rest, 4. Okay. Now, I can double that up and go for 4 notes at a time. A duration of 4 would look like a circle with no stick on it. And yes, lo and behold, that would be called a whole note. Similarly, we can divide these that way as well. So a quarter note, we can have an eighth note. An eighth note looks like this. It's a blob with a stem and a tail. Now, if there's 2 eighth notes in a quarter note, we actually join the tails together like that. And we would, if we were counting this and we wanted to put all eighth notes, in other words, there's going to be 8 of them in this bar, it would look like that. And we would count that as being 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. La, 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 la. There are eighth notes. Now, it's the combination of these symbols and the positions on the lines that gives us our melody. So the position on the line tells us which note to play. These symbols tell us how long to play the note for. And that's basic duration, right? We looked at 4 beats in the bar. If we looked at a 3-beat bar, it wouldn't matter that I had what we called previously a half note, which no longer represents half the bar. It still goes for 2 beats. That's why we started by looking at 4s, right? That is always going to be 2 beats. That is always going to be 1 beat. And this is always going to be 4 beats. So if I wanted to put a bar of 3 together, I can't put more than that in there, a 2 and a 1. I could have 3 of the 1s. I could join that together. We do that by putting a little line across like that. I could also convert this 2 into a 3. Now this is a little trick. I can convert that into a 3 by adding a dot. A dot, you say. Okay, so if I take a half note and put a dot on it, if I take any note and put a dot on it, I can add half its value on again. So if it previously was worth 2, I add half on again, and it now is worth 3. If I take a quarter note and add half on, it's now worth not 1, but 1 and a half. Now, does that look confusing? Because that's like I've gone to 2, right? Well, let's go back and have a look at that for a second. Remember our 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and? So 1 and a half, 1 would be to here. 1 and a half would be to there. 2 would be to there. So 1 and a half is actually 1 and 2. And then it stops at the end. So a dotted one of those plus one of those equals 2 full beats. So there's the 1 and a half and there's the half. And there's our 2 beats. Right, and that's enough rhythm theory for now. What I do recommend you do is when you take a new piece of music is you look at the rhythm first before you start playing the melody, and you tap out that rhythm or clap it out so you can understand where the beats are. If you need to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and whatever it is, do that on top of the music until you feel comfortable, you understand where the main beats of the rhythm are. Once you've got the rhythm down, then look at the melody.